How are you guys? It's great to see you again for another Video Creators podcast episode. Also live stream. We do these on Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern time at youtube.com/video creators. And so if you are listening to the podcast, you're in the audience, we want you to come join us sometime on the YouTube live stream. But I am really excited for today's topic. And I know I say that every single week, and you're like, Tim, you're always excited for today's topic. It's like, what are you going to talk about this time? That I because I don't like to talk about things I'm not excited about. but today we're going to take a little bit of a different, not a hard left turn, but we want to go a little bit of a different direction and talking about something that I think is especially pertinent for those of you guys who are creators who are at that like 10,000 subscriber mark on YouTube, maybe 25,000, even 100,000 subscriber mark. And maybe, or you have a social media following on Instagram, or you have a social media following on your blog or your podcast or something. We want to go a little bit more general than talking YouTube strategy this time. And today talk about online business strategy. And I know that's really important for a lot of you guys who are YouTube creators, and you're thinking like, hey, like I want to grow my channel, and I'm growing my channel, but I know a lot of you guys have bigger goals than just 100,000 subs or 10,000 subs or 1 million subscribers or whatever. Like you're building that channel, but you're ultimately trying to grow this business around it, something that makes money and is profitable. And the way we think about business is also a really good way to serve people better than you could have ever served them with your free content. It's a way that you can reach more people, change their lives. And I want to dive into that with you guys here today, mostly on the beginning end, which is like, if you're at that spot and you're like, I would love to turn my online social media presence, my YouTube channel, my blog, my podcast into a revenue, into like a business, and I'm trying to use this tool, the social media stuff, to grow my business. How do I do that? What skills do I need? That's where we want to start first of all. It's like very, very beginning. What skills do you need in order to do this successfully? For some context, I've been running video creators here. Oh, wait, what's today? Today, Lennon's here, guys. He's one of the strategists on my team. He's been quiet this whole time so far. Hi, Lennon.
Hey.
Today is the 7-year birthday of being full-time on Video Creators. I didn't even realize that until I just looked at it. It was June 15th, 2013. That was the last time I've been employed. That was my last day at my gig. I was doing audience development on YouTube for an agency here in Cincinnati for all their clients, and that position, the direction that the company was going with that project, they're kind of going a different direction. And so this day, 7 years ago, is when I had a conversation. This is a funny conversation. Totally parenthetical, guys, but I'll tell it because I think it's funny. Maybe this is where a lot of you guys are at. Is they were letting me go, and just to kind of make sure we're on the same page, the business manager guy, he's like, "Hey Tim, let's go for a walk in the parking lot." So it's a big parking lot. We're walking around out there. He's like, "Tim, just want to make it absolutely clear. Today's your last day. After today, you're no longer getting paid. You're not an employee of this business, of this company." And I was like, "Yes, I know, I understand." I was like, "I know you're trying to hire some sales positions though. Like, could I maybe apply for one of those jobs instead?" And he's like, "No, Tim, you'll never be good at sales." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I know." And at that time, I was like, "Yeah, sales. I don't even know the first thing about sales." Well, started video creators at that point. I started it in January, knowing that video lab or video, knowing that my job was coming to an end 6 months later. They gave me plenty of heads up on that. And so that was, and so I knew the time was coming to an end. I was growing this channel and this business already. And I quickly found out that if I was going to have a business, you need to have sales. Like, you have no business without sales. So about a year and a half later, I think, I bumped into him at this other thing in our community. I was like, "Hey, remember when you told me I would never be good at sales?" And he was like, "No." I was like, "Well, you did." And that was like exactly what I needed. Like you told me I couldn't do it. And I think at that time the business was earning like, it was definitely doing over 6 figures. I know that. And I don't remember the exact numbers, but I told him, he's like, wow, congratulations. No, like that was really good. Like, tell me what else I can't do. Like, tell me what's next. And he's like, oh, okay. So he's like, well, the next thing you can't do, Tim, is you can't scale this beyond yourself. You can't build a team. And I was like, oh, shoot, you got me. So that took another couple of years, 2 years maybe to figure that one out. And then I went back to him. I was like, remember when you told me I couldn't do that? He's like, yep. I was like, all right, well, I did it. Here's where I'm at. He's like, wow, good for you. I'm like, tell me what else I can't do. And he's like, you can't grow a leadership team of people who can run the business without you and make decisions on your behalf. And I'm like, oh, I'm still stuck on that one. Turns out scaling YouTube channel growth is way easier than scaling decision-making processes. But I'm still working on it. But anyway, he's a good friend of mine now, and our families are good friends, and it all worked out well. But all that to say, I didn't even realize it's the 7-year anniversary of me being full-time on Video Creators. So
that's super cool.
For anyone else who cared to know the story, there you go. All that to say, here's where the direction I was going with this originally, is that I've started multiple online businesses prior to, like my first one was 2005 was when I set up my first one. So it's been 15 years now of running different various online businesses. My wife and I have built these businesses, generated many millions of dollars. We have teams now and employees like Lennon. Thank you, Lennon, and other people. And I love it. I think it's the best way to really reach more people and change their lives is to grow a business around what you're doing. And so after 10 years of growing online, 15, but being full-time on Video Creators for 7 years especially, and a lot of the other ones generating millions of dollars, what I want to talk about today are some skills that I think are essential that you really need to acquire these skills if you really want to build your revenue and grow the business around your YouTube channel or whatever social media following you have. Because I've done this on blogs before YouTube even was a thing back in 2005. It was a blog, my first time doing this. So I want to so this is going to be not like, hey, you need to be able to learn how to edit videos and things. Like, we're not going that direction. We're going way deeper than that. So that's where we're going. Hope you guys are down for the ride, guys. And it's going to be, I'm really excited for this conversation to bring it totally full circle. That's why I am definitely excited for this. Lennon, actually, let me do the moderator first because Dahlia has been in the chat already. I want to make sure
she's killing it already.
Yeah.
She needs a shout out here.
Yeah, Dahlia. So if you guys are in the chat, welcome to Chickenlandia. That's who you guys need to tag. She's already been doing it. She's like, tag me if you have questions. Yes. So if you have questions for us, Lennon and I are going to run through these things and these skills that you really need to have and to grow an online business successfully. And if you have any questions about any of this, Lennon and I want to make sure we answer your questions the best that we can. And the way you get that in front of us is by tagging her IRL name is Dahlia, but just start typing @ welcome to, and then it'll fill out the rest, Chickenlandia, and she will put that in front of her. And if you are like me and you're just getting started with chickens, mine are like 6 weeks old now, I think, my chicks, and I haven't lost any. I expected like 2 or 3 of them to die up by this time, but they're all still living, which is great. So make sure so if you're in that target audience, you're getting started with chickens and want to learn how to, not only for the food stuff that they do, but the composting and the you want the health benefits from it, and you want them to till your garden, do all this stuff for you. They're like these little machines that just, mine are only like 6 weeks old, and I can already see they're just ripping things up, which is awesome in a good way. So welcome to Chickenlandia. You can see her, check out her channel. Just tag her with questions as we go through this, and she'll put them in front of us, and we'll answer them best we can. So thank you, Dahlia, for doing that. Lennon, how are you doing?
If you don't have chickens, get them, she says. Yeah. I'm going to get some for our apartment. Yeah, just like.
I'm sure that's been done
maybe
before.
probably.
I wonder what you do with the noise level though. And they are like really kind of like they do make they create a lot of dust somehow, from what I understand
Yeah.
inside. So put them on your back porch or something.
Well, you asked how I'm doing.
Let me ask you again here so we have an easier
Okay.
cut. You guys get the raw uncut version of this. How are you doing, Lennon? What's going on in your world?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I got my brother is here with us right now, which is cool. He's been here all weekend, and I probably hadn't seen him in a bit over a year. Um, I think the last time I saw him actually was not the last Vid Summit that I went to, but the one before, because he lives in LA, and so we were able to hang out then. But yeah, so it's been fun to get him to hang out with the girls, with our daughters, and we've been staying up late, talking about all of our issues as adults and just enjoying getting to catch up. It's been really, really cool.
Cool. And where's he from?
So he lives in Los Angeles now. He's lived in Chicago for a long time. He's an actor, illustrator. He's done a bunch of really cool stuff. If you're familiar at all with Bo Burnham, who's like a comedian guy, kind of got his start on YouTube stuff. There was a book called Egghead that ended up being like on the New York Times bestseller list, and so my brother illustrated that. He's just like this super incredibly talented guy. That's just, he does incredible musician. Just too many things, acting and the whole deal. So yeah.
He's a world famous illustrator, and you're a world famous rock star. Man, your mom did pretty good with you guys, and your dad, of course.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but both of us are just like, yeah. I mean, I guess it's cool. Yeah.
And now you're a YouTube star. Look at you. That's awesome. Cool. What's next? Oh, I'm totally thrown off here today. One of the things that we love doing most is talking with you guys, working with you one-on-one with your YouTube channels. And Lennon, you did that recently with a lady named Kristen Brooks. Tell us a little bit about her channel. And then I want to cut to a little section of your conversation with her in your session that you did with her not too long ago.
Yeah, so I had a call with Kristen, who does a lot of content around CBD. And she's a big believer in CBD and the health benefits of it, because according to her and her story, it just completely changed her life, from, chronic pain and things that she was dealing with. And so her value proposition is all about healthy, not high. So it's not about being into CBD in the form of like a drug, and she wants to break a lot of those stigmas that sort of surround CBD as a medicinal opportunity for people. So super cool. Turns out she's going to be in my Video Labs class, which I'm really excited about also. Cool. So this is like it's a lot of fun chatting with her.
Cool. Well, here's Kristen's a little clip from her session with Lennon.
Kristen, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your channel and what you're working on here?
Sure. I am doing a CBD educational channel, trying to break the stigma of hemp and CBD. And I'm just trying to grow. I'm still fairly new at YouTube and understanding how it works. And I've just learned some really important missing links to what I thought I was doing before. I knew it wasn't quite right. I knew that I was not on track somehow, but I couldn't really put a finger on it. And Lennon, you've just helped me figure out a whole lot of things that I can try and moving forward to get me kind of back on track. So I'm really grateful, I'm excited.
Cool. So one thing that we're always trying to do with these is like, what can be a takeaway for somebody that's listening so they get value from this too. So like for you, I know, you have this awesome, dense subject. What did you feel like was the big shift for you in our call that you think would be really helpful for somebody else that's educating somebody on something?
Definitely identifying better with my audience by addressing the problem. I think I've been doing a lot of addressing the solution and giving my audience answers, but helping them relating to them on more of a personal level on what problems they're processing and dealing with in daily life will make me a much more attractive sort of person that they're going to want to hang out with again and keep coming back for more information.
Yeah,
That
I love it.
huge disconnect that you just helped me make. So thank you.
Oh, that's my pleasure. This is what I love to do. And that, for those of you that are listening, like, that's a big thing. You have to remember that sometimes we need to be the ambassador of that problem as much as we are the solution, so that people understand what we're helping them with and where we're meeting them at. And I think oftentimes as creators, we miss that because we just want to help so bad. And we're like, you kind of forget about the problem because you're like, I got the answer. I just want to give you the answer. Right. So,
Yep. Just want to solve it for them and get them started in the right direction. But in order to do that, you have to like work your way there with an audience and be an attractive person that they're going to want to trust and listen to, and not the information then doesn't fall on deaf ears.
Yeah, I love it. Kristen, you've been awesome to talk to. I want to say thanks for doing the call. And any parting words of wisdom for people that are out there that are making YouTube vids?
I would say that this has been the single most useful thing that I have done in the year that I've been trying to create these videos and prepare to go live. And then, I've been focused on a lot of things that I think were somewhat right, somewhat wrong. I'm seeing that now retrospectively, but I honestly feel like this is the missing link. This 1 hour has been the missing link to understanding where I need to go from here and how I should be creating my content a little differently.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
I just want you guys to know that I didn't pay her to say that.
Not at all. I'm super, super inspired right now and motivated by some of the things that just clicked. So thank
that
you.
means so much. I love that so much.
Yeah.
We do not take it lightly that we get to work with creators like you and like those that are listening here. So thanks so much, Kristen.
We would love to work with you, Lennon. I'm like, I need to do a session with Lennon. Like, my gosh. But whether it's with me, Lennon, Delana is off today. She just bought a new house and she's working with contractors right now, which I'm sure she would prefer to be here, but she's getting all that stuff set up. But just go to videocreators.com/consulting and you can book a session right on my calendar, Lennon's calendar, Delana's calendar, like right there in that page. See when our availability is. Book it right there. And we would love to get into a 1 hour session with you guys and help you the same way Lennon help Kristen move forward with her channel. So videocreators.com/consulting. Consider it like we self-sponsor our own videos. No, I think it's awesome. It's like a way we get to serve you guys even better. It's great.
Yeah, it's been fun to do these because I try to get an opportunity to highlight what I hope is going to be some thoughts that will be helpful to those of you guys that are watching and listening here too. Because I think these are all very specific things that we see often. So I like using those people too, where it's like, here are things that they're going through. Here are some things that we commonly talk about. And it just sort of hopefully just showcases some things that will be helpful to the listeners and viewers and all of that. So
cool.
Good.
Let's dive into this topic of the skills you need for growing a successful online business. I wrote down 7 of them. I'm sure there's probably more than that, and there's probably overlap between them, so it's probably not an exhaustive list. But these are the first things that came to mind for me, maybe because these are big areas of weaknesses I have, or these are the things that I've had to work the hardest to learn and to figure out over the past 15 years, and especially over the past 10 years of doing YouTube strategy and then doing it full-time here at Video Creators for the past 7 years. Happy birthday to us, I think. But this guy, yeah. So this stuff is not, I don't think you're going to flip a switch and be like, boom, I got it. This is, I have read tons of books on this stuff. I don't have a background in business. I'll be totally honest with you right now. I don't, all my graduate and undergraduate degrees have to do with like ministry and theology stuff. None of it has to do with like business, marketing. The internet was like a new thing back when I got started. You didn't even use your real name on the internet because back then people would hunt you down, or at least the traditional media was telling you that people would hunt you down and kill you if they found out who you were on the internet. So I was very, very scared. That's actually part of what prompted me to try to figure out who was finding me on YouTube, how they were finding me, why they were watching, why they kept coming back. I was mostly nervous about that. But yeah, so 7 things here we want to talk through with you guys. And again, those of you guys who are in the chat, you have questions, make sure you tag out Chicken. Welcome to Chickenlandia, and she's moderating for us today, and she'll put your questions in front of us here. We want to answer a lot of them here at the end. Number 1 skill, though, that came to mind for me as I was talking about this is problem solving. Like, your entire business, your channel, your Instagram, your podcast, your blog, whatever it is that you're working on, these all exist to help solve a problem for people. That's what a business does. If you're going to boil it down to its like ultimate little smallest like definition, is a business is a solution to someone's problem. You're selling solutions. You're solving someone's problem for them. And so for you guys, like as creators, you need to know what problem is your content solving for someone, and then thus what problem is your business solving. Hopefully those 2 things are aligned for someone or for each of you. So if you're just like an entertainment channel though, or personality brand, I know sometimes people get hung up there like, well, I'm not really solving a problem. I'm just trying to help people have a good time. Well, that's solving a problem. They want to escape from their reality, or they want to feel like they have a perceived relationship with someone, or they want to feel like they're hanging out with the cool kids now, or this person makes me laugh or something. Like they're still solving a problem for someone. Now, I want to not camp out on that part too long, because I think it's not just how you're going to solve someone else's problem, but you need problem solving skills, because your business is going to run into a ton of problems as you do this, and there will be a never ending flow of problems. Lennon, how many problems do we have here at Video Creator? Actually, don't answer that. We can illustrate this. Just two, yeah. We can illustrate this with last year, Lennon, Delana, Trina, Catherine, Stephanie, like the whole team, they all flew out to my house for a few days, and we brought on this what's his name? Consultant. His name's Rich, a consultant to help us figure out how do we move forward with some of these things in our business. And one of the first things that Rich had everybody do, Lennon, and you probably remember this, is take the Post-it notes. You want to tell the story of what he had everybody do on the Post-it notes?
Yeah, basically it was like all the different issues that we saw, whether it was based on internal issues, external issues, how we're meeting the customer, what are all these problems that we see, and we went through the whole gamut, and it was very like free flow, like stream of conscious, just write stuff down and go. And so by the end of it, the whole wall was like,
he covered a freaking wall in like 5 minutes. I was like, guys, slow down. At least pretend like you can't identify all these problems so fast. I think we've solved some of those, but then solving some more pop up. And that's kind of my point here, is like, there's going to be problems that can pop up all the time. Your product's not going to work. Your service is going to fail. You're going to have an unhappy customer. You're going to have a key employee who's going to quit. Your expenses are going to start to grow higher than your income. You got this marketing campaign you're going to do. It's just going to flop. I remember as my team was growing here at Video Creators, the more people who are coming on board, because we needed to keep up with the growth, but that meant the more people I had to pay. And now that I'm paying more people to provide these services, then all my profit margins were thrown off. Like the profit margins were fine when it was just me, But when there's other people and the team's growing, and as the team grows, there's more taxes to pay and everything. So the profit margins, all the math was getting broken by hiring people to keep up with the growth. So I knew it was a problem I could fix. But like some of these problems are kind of complex, like that one. I'm thankful that I have a good lady on my team named Kristen. She kind of functions as our accountant, CFO lady. And she was able to put together lots of really smart spreadsheets that helped me figure things out. But that problem, like my profit was going down because I was spending more time managing people than I was on revenue producing tasks. So like that was a big problem. So problem solving is a skill you definitely need to have. You have anything you want to add to that one, Lennon?
Well, and also kind of what I'm hearing you say is like, if you know that you can't solve the problem, it will be worth your time to hire somebody that can help you. Because, sometimes we don't have the luxury of saying, well, I'll just kind of ride this out until it all just sort of works. And I've seen friends and other colleagues and people like just kind of run businesses into the ground because they don't, small or not, or just like ideas because they're afraid to invest in having somebody help them solve a problem. So yeah, I think that's also a great point, and that's kind of what I hear coming from you as well with Kristen and Rich and all those professional people that you've surrounded us with as a team.
One of the ways that actually works, not really on my list, but is because I have cash reserves built up because you're going to have problems. You're going to have things that are going to break. You're going to have a bad month or 3. And while you're pivoting, trying to figure things out, like having cash reserves there is really, really essential for the long-term sustainability of your business. And so when we start bumping into these problems, I have the resources I need to bring on someone like Rich, who's a consultant we work with, or have Kristen spend more time analyzing the data and the numbers to figure out where are we going wrong here and why is this not working anymore. Because if you're always going for like paycheck to paycheck as a business, then you hit a problem, you have no flexibility to invest into solving the problem anymore. So yeah. Number 2 is another skill you really need to have to grow an online business is be able to think strategically. You need to have a plan for how you're going to solve this problem for more and more people. Hopefully, as your business and your social online following grows, you're going to need to think strategically about what opportunities you're going to say no to. That's a big one. You have more and more opportunities, and you have to start deciding which opportunities are actually just distractions. Like it is an opportunity, but it's a distraction disguised as an opportunity. How do you do that? How do you continue to cast vision for what's next, like this year, what's coming up next year, 2 years, 5 years? How do you think strategically about the long term and making those types of things? I remember, like, for me and for you guys, like, YouTube is very different today than it was 5, 10, 2 years ago. Even this time last year. Before, like, Kappa kicked in like 6 months ago now, right? And even this time last year, it was a very different place. So the industry changes very rapidly. So I really had to think pretty hard strategically about how do I create a business that serves people well right now, but can also pivot and change in order to keep up with all the changing needs of YouTube creators. You guys may or may not realize this or know this, but the problems that you're trying to solve on your channel, the questions that you're asking and the ways you're going about trying to solve those problems changes from year to year. And we know this because we survey you guys. And even though we literally talk and work with hundreds of creators on a personal level every single month, when we do the survey and we look at the data, I always come back surprised, like, oh, that's not the language I was using to describe that problem. Or, yeah, we like, that's not what all I was expecting. So it's the industry changes, you guys change, the needs change. And so we need to think, I think it's big skills to think strategically about how you're going to move forward, solve problems for people, opportunities you're going to manage, and just kind of overall grow the business and your social platforms. So what comes to mind for you, Lennon?
Yeah. Well, I've been thinking a lot about this because and maybe somebody here that's listening can relate to this. I'm a person that, I forget the movie, but it's like where I get distracted. It's like squirrel. I see the squirrel, and that's the most important thing in that given moment. And this is part of us as a team. We started developing and doing like OKRs and things, which is a side topic. But
objectives and key results for you guys. Remember that?
Yeah. So basically, I've been trying to set aside personally for my own side business objectives, and always thinking, okay, I have objectives for every 3 months. I also have objectives for every month that I'm kind of thinking about, and I'm only keeping like, okay, here are the 2 or 3 things that I want to focus on. And I only look and say, are the things I'm working on right now strategically leading toward that? Because if they're not, they're probably things that don't matter right now. So, and I've learned to do that more and more, and that helps me feel more comfortable when I say, okay, I'm maybe doing less content right now, but that I know that's strategic, because that also means that 6 months from now, I will have the other things in place so that when that content exists, it's now growing something bigger. And so that's kind of been my thoughts on that lately.
Yeah, it's like, how do you think long term about what I'm going to need later, and anticipate for that by the things I'm doing now, even though I don't really know what I'm going to need later. Like, for example, having some cash reserves, or planning things out ahead of time as much as you can. Number 3, I think thinking systematically. This has been something that's been necessary for me, especially over the past few years as we continue to grow and scale and work with more of you guys, is how do I create systems that reliably solve people's problems? How do I create systems that train our team to be able to solve someone's problems? How do I create systems that generate new clients and customers? How do I create systems that keep finances in check? The problem with not identifying these systems, guys, is that if it's always just in your head, then you are the cap. You are the bottleneck of your business. Nothing can grow beyond you because, well, only I have the relationships with the customers, and only I know how to set up this marketing sequence, and only I know how to edit these videos the way I want to edit them, and only I know how to shoot. And there are some things in your business that only you can do. For example, only I can be Tim on camera, or only I can be me here in these podcast episodes. Does that mean that Lennon, Delana, and other strategists can't serve our clients just as well as I do? Absolutely not. In fact, you just heard from Kristen a little bit ago, it sounds like Lennon knocked it out of the park with her. In fact, she probably had a better session with Lennon than she would have had with me, right? So, but I think a lot of that's due to the systems that we've put in place that's allowed Lennon, Delana, Trina, other people here to be able to brought up to speed, and this is how we solve this problem for people. This is how we serve them. And there's a lot that goes into that, but I remember the first time when you and Delana first came on, that was a new system I was trying out. How do I train someone to be able to work with creators and then get the same amount of value from you guys as they would for me, even though I've got over a decade of experience doing this? How do I take a decade of experience and compress that into, a couple people in a relatively short amount of time? And I feel like we've done a good job with that. But, as you hear video labs, video creators, with a lot of the systems we've been putting in place, what stands out to you? I know we got a far way to go, and I'm fine if you share some of our weaknesses. I think that's good for people to hear too. But what do you, what comes to mind for you as you talk about the systems that we've been working hard? Because it really did start a little bit before, a little over a year and a half, 2 years ago is when this really started to ratchet up, around the time you came on board.
Yeah, I think that it's, there are things that were there to say, well, I think 2 things sort of happened. One, as you were picking us, I feel like when we got hired, because it was also this feeling of, okay, you're going to naturally fit into this role. I think if you could pick somebody else and give them those same systems, and it may still work, but I think that there has to be a certain level of is this person thinking toward this thing? Is this person thinking in the way that this execution needs to be? So you wouldn't want to create a system for me on how to illustrate graphics for your videos, because that's not like
that's
a
for your
skill
brother,
set
huh?
Right, yeah. Not a skill set for me, right? So I think it kind of starts with that, but I think it's also that I think it's been really good to just try and go through sort of the checklist and start there. And then what's been neat is as those systems were in play, we've also been able to say, okay, this feels like it's kind of falling short, and now you've got extra eyes on that and then we just kind of feed each other new things. I feel like we're constantly revising stuff and saying, and that's been really fun. So like with Delana, I'm helping her do reviews for her clients. She does reviews for me. And we're constantly saying, well, what if we did this with the overall idea so that this is never a problem anymore? Or what if we tried this consistently? And so I don't know, there's something about that team effort as well that's just helped to do that. And that can be difficult. I know speaking to that for a lot of you as solo creators, like that may feel like, well, I don't have a team. I don't have those people around me. But what you can do is start to take a look at the systems that you have, just show it to somebody for feedback and say, do you understand kind of what this means? I'll have my wife look at a lot of stuff and say, can you at least grasp what I'm trying to say, even if you don't understand how to do every single thing? So looking at that and just seeing how well you communicate, it can be a great first step as you're kind of putting that stuff together.
I think if I remember correctly, the first time I tried to put I knew I had to crack this somehow. Like, how do I scale YouTube strategy into people? And the process, the system we put together for doing a consultation, wasn't it like 30 some pages long? Like that document I gave you guys?
Yeah, I've probably only read like 10 of them because there's just so many, and also it's a testament though to your experience and taking all this time and like putting it into this place, right? But then there's also levels where I have gone back for that and been like, oh, well, I have this document somewhere. I can kind of look at this and see how this has been handled in the past.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's just like, I should say I only use like 10 of those pages consistently because those are probably the most common things that we see. And then the others are more like always available for us to go after and look at and kind of use for other opportunities.
But the system's like everything, like here's how you address, here's how we as a company talk about these problems, but it's also how do you welcome the person and how do you make them feel excited to be here, and how do you like make sure that they leave with like a clear action steps written out for them, and like it's just like everything from beginning to end. That took a lot of work, but anyway, thinking systematically and putting everything into systems from your production to your sales funnels to your marketing to your onboarding. Everything needs to be a system that if everyone follows the system, follows the process, by the time they get to the end, they will have this outcome will be like the guaranteed, predictable, reproducible outcome every time. That takes
And to that point, like if you boil this down to your most basic situation, as your business grows, as you start to do more and more stuff, I'm feeling this now where I have now like 5 or 6 different things that I'm trying to like overall manage all the time. So just for me, having these checklists and systems, so I literally have a checklist that says, do these things every day, do this with the community every month. Make sure that every time you write this article, you're thinking about these things. And that prevents me from dropping the ball so often. I still drop the ball, but like those systems have now helped me to just be way more consistent across the board. So it's not just about scaling. It's a lot about like, as you have more responsibility, those things are going to be lifesavers.
Yeah. Yeah. So a really good book for you guys, E-Myth. Totally recommend it. E-MYTH Revisited. It's called E-Myth Revisited. Really good book that helped me a lot with this stuff. So I highly recommend it. Even if you're a solo person, you're a solopreneur, you don't have a team. This isn't about teams. This is about making it easier for you to reproduce results and value and solving problems for people. It's even if you're like me, you're more of like a free spirit type person, you don't really care as much for systems. It's like the only way you're going to be able to grow. Number 4 is really also need to have the skill of being able to think financially. A successful business really comes down to math. Does the amount of money coming into your business exceed the amount of money that's being spent, that's going out? So and I think this is a skill you should hopefully be learning personally with your personal finance, because if your personal finance is strung up on credit cards and lots of debt, hopefully you're working through that, get to a place that's a little less volatile for you. But don't take that approach and apply it to your business, because if it's not working for you personally in your personal finances, it's also not going to work in your business finances. And there's way more at stake for the business, maybe. Like for me, it is, because it's not just my family now it's at stake, but it's Lennon, it's like everyone on my team. Now I'm thinking about their families too. So you can't, like the stakes get way higher as you start growing a team. But even if you don't have a team, you need to have these good practices of having cash reserves so you can solve problems when they come up. There is one issue that came up a few years ago now that I lost pretty quickly, about $30,000, right like that. And well, it wasn't right like that. It was over a period of a few months to a year. But if it wasn't for the cash reserves there, I would have had to quit my business and we wouldn't be successful and have moved past. We wouldn't have been able to move past that and still be here today. So you got to know where the money's being spent or lost. You got to be able to do math. You don't have to love math. Fortunately, it's quite easy to pay other people to do this for you. But you do need to be able to have an intelligent conversation about it. Kristen, like I said, she's from, not sponsored, but she's a contractor here. She's with Mid-Atlantic CPAs.com. So not sponsored, but we've had really good experiences with them. And she functions not just as a CPA, accountant, tax person, but also as a business advisor, CFO type of role as well. And so she really helps me manage the money. She helps me stick to the budget. It helps me know what things do I need to say no to outside of the budget, and how do I make sure I save cash to be able to invest in the future expansions. Like when I bring on a new person, sometimes they don't produce any revenue or even contribute to producing revenue for months before they're now working with clients, or they're now in this role on their own, and it's not taking more of my time to manage them than it is for them to do the job. And so that's a couple months of pay I need to have for that person. So, it's just really, really important to know, can I afford to hire someone now? Can I not? Can I make this investment in my business? Should I wait until later? And so here at Video Creators, we offer multiple courses and services, and we offer plenty of free content at no cost to you whatsoever, like this right here. But they don't all have the same profit margins. And so how do I track people's time and expenses related to each service to evaluate what's worth keeping? What do we need to ditch? For example, Patreon was a really hard decision for me a few years ago. It was generating money, but I was putting a lot more time into generating that than the amount of money that was coming in. So I ditched Patreon. But I wouldn't have known how to make that decision if it wasn't for doing some math and looking at if I do this, it generates this and helps people that way. If I do this, it only generates this and doesn't help people as much. So I'm going to ditch that so I have more time to invest in the things that are working. So anything come to mind for you, Lennon, with this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a hard one for a lot of us, is that we feel like that we think only about the time spent versus what we make, and I was really bad about that. I had a freelance gig that I was doing a few years ago, and as I started to position more into other stuff that was paying more money, letting go of that was hard. And then I did the math, and it was like I was driving 45 minutes each way to get there, and then also thinking about the 30 to 45 minutes on both sides that I had to either get ready or then try to get back into a frame of mind where I could start to do other work. And all of a sudden that $20, $30 an hour that I was making then turned in quickly to 10 or 12. And then you're just like, man, I wish I would have been thinking about this stuff sooner, because it starts to really play into, and then you have the difficult conversation of no, you're really just not paying me enough. And they're like, but it's $20 an hour. That's pretty good for this. I'm like, yeah, but it's not, because I'm having to do all this other stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. If you guys, I'm looking at the chat and people, I like what some of you guys are saying about budgeting and things, is if you're not a money numbers person, I'll tell you right now, is just as boring in your personal life as it is in the business life. It doesn't get any more exciting for business, but I would highly recommend, if you haven't already, that you go through something like Financial Peace University from Dave Ramsey. Not sponsored by them, but my wife and I did go through that about 10 years ago. We worked really hard. I was making $14,000 a year at that time, and we paid off debt, and that's really what set us up for success long term. Now 10 years later, that allowed us to invest into things like our business and stuff. So get the personal finances in order. I highly recommend, or just don't go to Financial Peace University. Just get Dave's book, Total Money Makeover. If you want to do that, that's actually how my wife and I got started, and start working through that process. Even if you don't like it, it's like, I understand it now, because we have people who go work with us through Video Labs or something. They're like, hey, I see what you're doing here, but it doesn't work for me. I'm going to do it this way instead. And then they don't get the results they want. So go through Dave's. Don't flex it. If you follow the process, it's guaranteed to have these results at the end of it. So, yeah. Okay, number 5 is, I think another fifth skill you really need to have is being resilient. Can you handle rejection? Can you handle stress? Can you handle burnout? Can you handle distractions? Can you handle slow progress? Can you focus on one thing long enough to make it work, but also know when it's time to abandon that thing and pivot? There's last summer, I spoke and traveled and spoke in 11 different states in 11 weeks. And I was like, I was so tired, and at the end of that, I'm like, wow, this is why I need a personal assistant, because when the booking is left to me, this is what happens. My schedule gets way too crazy. So, thank you, Stephanie, who's probably listening to this later, to write an email for everyone and a blog post and stuff. She helps me manage that. Actually, Stephanie's going to be on the show here in the podcast in a few weeks. She's going to talk with us about how she handles an onslaught of daily email and manages all those incoming requests and everything. For any of you guys who might be in a similar position, you just find a lot of your time being sunk with email. She's going to reveal how we manage all that behind the scenes. But yeah, so whether it's coming off of 11 weeks of travel, or when my wife was pregnant with our twins, she was on bed rest for 6 months, 3 months prior to the delivery, and then another 3 months after the delivery. And so I had to back off on the business stuff. I backed off to about 10 hours a week, and I'm glad that our business was at a point at that time where I could do that. It wasn't sustainable long-term for us, but we could take 6 months, and then we had to come back and start turning it around again, because it just declined during that time. But I was glad I at least had the flexibility to do that. So resilience is important, I think. And Lennon, I'm pretty sure you can speak to this too, because I know you deal with this in a lot of your background stuff too, and your businesses and things as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've pivoted multiple times in my life, but I think that, the big thing here that you hit is like knowing when to let go of something, and not being afraid to say, okay, like, this just isn't working. Sometimes we can work on something for a long time and just feel so connected to it in kind of almost a detrimental way, where it's like, oh, but I've put all this time and effort into it. It's going to be a waste. You see it as a waste if you have to let it go. I'm going to tell you that that's not accurate at all. Sometimes the best thing you can do is to say, it's time for me to let this go, tell it thank you for like serving me the way it did, and then use all that new information that you've gained, all that stuff that you've gotten from it, and move to the next thing. And I think that is the definition of resiliency, because in our life, we're going to do that so many times, I think. Very seldom, I feel like, if we're chasing things that we're passionate about, very seldom do we just do the same thing forever and ever and ever. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's important too, because it's going to be way harder. Like Lennon, you and I did a video about this. It's going to be way harder than anyone expects, than you expect. It's going to cost more than you think it's going to cost, not just in terms of finances, but in time and energy and efforts, maybe relationships and whatever else. But it's the most rewarding thing you can do in the long run to really create something that systematically, reproducibly, and predictably reaches people and changes their lives. It's like it's the best thing I think you can invest into is a good business that does that. Number 6, I think this one goes without saying, but I've learned this one the hard way too many times, is that you need to communicate clearly. Clear communication, regardless of if you have a team. I know a lot of these things we kind of immediately go to team, but clear communication and like communicating what you do and why it matters. It's being able to clearly communicate when you answer customers' questions and they feel like, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. I want to work with them. Or I want to buy that product, or I clearly understand this thing I'm about to buy, and yes, this is what I need. It's working efficiently with your employees or with people on your team. You communicate with them so that people don't end up doing the wrong work the wrong way. Then they have to do it again, which frustrates them. It costs you more money. And so how do you communicate clearly? That's been a skill I've definitely had to learn and improve over the years. For me, I've learned that the key is to over communicate. If I feel like I'm over communicating, then I'm probably just now barely starting to communicate to others. Not in a naggy way, but just kind of like, if I ask someone to do something, I can't assume, or I shouldn't assume that they know how to do it. Now, some things at this point, obviously Lennon knows how to do a consultation. I don't need to go through that with him every time. But to get it started, like we have to go through every single step and make sure I'm not like, here you go, Lennon, good luck. It's do whatever you think works best. But it's like communicating, here's what works, here's what doesn't work, and going through those systems. What do you guys think would happen if there was a potential client and asked me hey, Tim, what do you guys do? And my response isn't very clear. And they kind of leave with some sort of sense of confusion about what we do and how it solves their problem. Guess who's not buying from us? That person. Like any sense of confusion. If it's me and someone else communicated clearly, they're like, oh, I know exactly what this person does and that solves my problem. Versus like, I think this person solves my problem, but they spent most of their time talking about how awesome they are instead and what clients they've worked with and how many billions of views that they've done. And I still don't really know, like, do I need them or clarity is like any sense of confusion. Like I like how Donald Miller puts it, you confuse, you lose. So that's not just internally with your team, but that's externally too, in your family, your marriages and everything, right? So anything from you, Lennon, on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I the biggest thing that communication has done for me recently is I launched my own first course, and I kind of am haphazardly going through it because I want it to be better for my students. So it's like I didn't want to build all the curriculum and then have to reframe it. So sort of week by week, I'm kind of changing some things. But I just told them that from the beginning. I just said, listen, I just want you to know this isn't all put together yet. Like I've got the outline in place. I know the information. I'm ready to help you with it. But I want to make sure we do this together. So don't be surprised if you don't get certain things until we actually do it together or certain things start to happen. And I converted way higher than I expected from sort of my free offer to this. And I think it had a lot to do with not being afraid to just tell people exactly where I was at and what I was doing. Yeah.
And for those of you guys who don't know, Lennon has his other business. He works here at Video Creators, but you're also growing your own thing as well while you do that. So that's where his course is, helping creative. Oh, hold on. Let's see if I can do it. Helping creative people turn their art, make a living from their art.
Yeah. Helping
close?
Artists. That's close. Yeah. Helping artists and creatives stand out and make money doing meaningful work.
There you go. Yeah. That's good. That's way better than mine. Dahlia in the chat also said, someone asked me what Chickenlandia was in a parking lot, and I totally bombed the answer, and then she just drove away. Well, that's what happened to your business. Yeah, it's got to be clear. Number 7, we're going to jump into your questions here, is be a salesman. Like, you have to learn sales. You have no business without sales. I learned that the hard way. And someone told me I couldn't be good at sales. And I was like, yeah, you're right, as I told you. And I quickly learned that I had no business without sales. And so I started reading sales books. I started I didn't really have any money at the beginning. And so I did a barter with someone who was an online internet marketer. And so she was trying to grow a YouTube channel. So once a month we'd meet and talk about her channel. And then once a month we'd also meet then and talk about, so every other week we were meeting, and then we talk about my business. And she would help me understand, like, no, Tim, you can't pitch the medicine. You have to talk about the problem you're solving first. So she taught me a lot. That helped me get started, and to the point where now we have a guy who's just on retainer for our business. His name's Wade, and just helps me out with all my sales emails and sales. He writes a lot of the sales copy now, and helps with all of those automations of sales funnels and conversion rates and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so you're first starting out your business, you're responsible for everything though. So you need to learn sales, even if you're like, well, I don't have a product I need to sell. That's okay. You're still pitching your channel to new subscribers. You're still pitching yourself to sponsors, people who maybe want to work with you. You're always pitching something. You're pitching every single video with a title and a thumbnail. Like, you're still selling, whether or not it's a financial exchange for like a product or a service, you're still always selling yourself. And so it is absolutely a lesson that is a skill you need to have. And it can be learned. If I can learn it, anyone can learn it. And so all these skills can be learned, I think, whether it's communicating better, managing your money, handling stress, solving problems. There's a couple of things in here that I don't think you can learn, though. A couple of skills that I don't think can be taught. You either have these or you don't. All the other skills you can learn. These skills, I don't think I can teach you or anyone else. I think you can learn to fake it. But the people who fake it eventually get discovered, eventually get found out and exposed, and they crash and burn really hard. And I saw that just happen recently with a pretty popular YouTube creator, a couple million subs. I knew about this person because we worked with them when they were a lot smaller. And then I saw behind the scenes what they were doing, even working with us, and what they were doing to us. And then I didn't come out publicly or say anything, but I found I didn't need to, because just a couple weeks ago they were ratted out, and and it wasn't my position to rat them out. That's because of a client, but it just wasn't the right situation. But anyway, so a few skills that can't be taught. One, do you love serving people? If you don't love people, you don't love serving people, and you really just want to extract as much value from people as you can, like this other person I'm referring to, then that's a skill I can't teach you, and I hope you don't win in business. Number two, are you trustworthy, and are you honest? Those honesty and trustworthiness are not skills I think I can teach you. Those are values that you need to hold, and if you're not honest, you're not trustworthy, you will have a really hard time making your business work. If you are honest and trustworthy, and you love serving people, and this next one, you're dependable, people just tend to talk about you. A lot of our biggest work comes from word of mouth, of people saying, hey, I work with these guys. They were awesome. They went above and beyond. Just 2 weeks ago, I don't know if I told you this, Lennon, but I'll tell you the details later, I don't want to reveal who it is right here. But we work with them, and they're like, you guys went so far above and beyond. Like, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. You guys were amazing. They sent us another $5,000 just because, like, you undercharged us.
Wow.
So and I'll tell you who it was when we get off here, Lennon. But yeah, so number 4, are you naturally curious about how things work? If you aren't naturally curious about solving these problems and staying on top of how they work, like, I think it's going to be hard to grow in business. Like, I can't teach you how to just want to learn and be naturally curious about whatever industry you're in, how it works and how it grows. I think I also can't teach you how to dive deep. Wait, what did I write? Oh yeah, there we go. I can't teach you, like, do you have the drive? Look at my notes here. I read them wrong. Do you have the drive to keep going when things are tough? A lot of people, this is so common on YouTube channels. So many people are like, I'm going to grow my YouTube channel. Yay for me. And then they subscribe to channels like ours. They start listening to content like this. And then 4 weeks later, they're like, woo, that was way harder than I thought it was going to be. And especially after a year, they're like, I've been working on this hard for a year, been publishing videos consistently, and I'm just not getting anywhere. The algorithm must hate me. And the people who keep going are the people who usually end up winning. And the people who quit lose 100% of the time. Shocker, I know. And then finally, like, are you self-aware enough to know when the problem in the business is you? Like, can you see what needs to change in order to serve people better? And that's been a really hard skill for me to see and to notice. Like, I'll just be honest, like the first couple of people I hired who are no longer here, they have some responsibility to take. But if I look back at them, I'm gonna be honest, like 90% of the problem was me not knowing how to manage those people well. I look at a lot of the problems we have, like, it's not Lennon's fault. Like, he's not in charge of a lot of these things. He's does a great job doing exactly what he needs to do, playing his role on our team. A lot of these big problems are mine and the ones that I cause and create and exacerbate. So having the self-awareness to know when you're the problem, I think, is really, really key. Otherwise, your video, your channel, but your business will struggle, can flounder, it will drown, it'll go under. And you can point the fingers anywhere you want, but if you don't address the actual problem, it's not going to solve anything and it'll still go under. So anything you want to add to that, Lennon? And then we'll jump into some questions real quick.
No, I think that's all spot on. Yeah.
Cool.
Spot on.
All right. Missouri Valley Saddlery and Outfitters asks, when should someone move away from a site like Etsy to your own website? Also, where can I find Lennon's course? Okay, cool. Yeah. So I think you should move away if you own your own audience. I think platforms like Etsy, Amazon, Udemy, I think those places are great if you don't already have a built-in audience. But if you're going to be the person driving traffic to this product, like, put it on your own website where you can own the email address, you can own the customer's data, you can more easily go to upsells and get them in email funnels and things like that. I would say that if you don't have a built-in audience, use some of those because they do have audiences. But if you do, then move it elsewhere. And then, Lennon, where can they find your course?
You can just find me on Instagram, or if you just go to lennonbone.com, there's a contact form for me there.
Cool. Sunny's Place asks, any book or blog recommendations for someone starting to build their online strategy and plan? What's been helpful for you, Lennon?
For online strategy, oh man, I'm so bad with like remembering names. Like, I wouldn't even know my wife's name if I hadn't been married to her for so long.
So, I have our anniversary literally engraved into my wedding band, so I can't forget it. It's right on the inside.
I think I like the Donald Miller books. So I like Marketing Made Simple. I liked Building a Story Brand. I thought those were great because I think that's just practical for business in general. And then as far as like the online stuff, I think that's where honestly, I think that's where companies like ours sort of fit that gap of like, how do you take these business ideas and then translate those into content or into things that are helpful for the online sphere. So I would have to I'd have to look at my Audible and see, but like I've been reading 6 Figures in 6 Months, which has been pretty good. It's definitely more like just kind of a business book. I've been reading Alchemy, which has been interesting. It's got a lot of good, just kind of left of center thought processes. I've enjoyed that one. I also read Zag and thought that was a good book on like kind of branding and understanding kind of when to change direction and how to sort of think of yourself as, different from your competitors, that kind of thing.
Cool. Here's something really helpful for me. Business Model Generation by Alexander Ostrenwalder and Yves Pingeneur. I don't know. Just search Business Model Generation. I like this book because this really helped me understand business as I thought business was super overwhelming and complicated, but this book has tons of big pictures and fonts and colors in it and worksheets, and it kind of helps you outline your business on like a one-sheet canvas. So that was really helpful. That's what I did in 2013 and for video creators, and it's still what I follow that same. The same work that I did from that book is still what I closely follow today. I already mentioned this one, E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. Definitely really important about systems. Ready, Fire, Aim, 0 to $100 million in No Time Flat by Michael Masterson. This book, I listened to an audio and then I went back and bought it on paper because there's like, it's like the most step-by-step practical book I've read in terms of like, do this. And then you're going to be tempted to do this next, but don't do this next until you figured out this thing. And like, don't go like, cause too many people end up growing business the wrong way and then it implodes. So this book was like the best step-by-step process, I think. And then this one, the Personal MBA, Master the Art of Business by Josh Kaufman, is like if you just want like potty reading, toilet paper, what do they call it? Toilet reading? I don't know. You can just like whatever.
Toilet paper?
Like the Reader's Digest type thing where you can sit down and like read a little bit and be done. It doesn't take, it's all like 1 or 2 page chapters basically. And this helped me. Like as I read this, I'm like, oh, I understand business. So I don't have that good a person like an MBA. I thought about it, but it turned out I read this book. I'm like, oh, I don't need an MBA. Like I get all the concepts. Now I just got to figure out the ones that are most pertinent to my business and double down on those. So I would start with those books. Shark Scraper. What are the different perspectives required to have a YouTube channel for fun versus a business? Comes to mind for you, Lennon.
What? Sorry, what was the first part of that question?
What are the different perspectives required to have a YouTube channel as for fun versus as a business?
Oh, I mean, essentially to me, it's just making money. Like if you don't want to convert any of it to some sort of financial gain in any way, shape, or form, you just want to make things. Just like, I think it's more about, I think a lot of times, because I think of this in terms of artists, which I relate to a ton, and creatives in that way, is like a lot of artists just want to make stuff for them and they have a hard time selling because they don't know how to make it line up with the person that sees it. And so, I think the difference is like, if you just want to make a channel and have it just be kind of for fun, you're just kind of making stuff for you that's really enjoyable for you, right? And then if you want to make a business out of it, you really have to put the viewer first. You have to say like, they are indeed like the number one most important thing.
Yeah, I agree. There's the same thing. You're going to need to learn this stuff to get people to consume content from you anyway. It's the same principles that get people to subscribe and consume your videos. Like that's the product you're trying to promote and get people to consume. The same principles apply to your actual thing you're going to sell, which is there's still a value exchange. They're on YouTube or social media. They're just giving you time in exchange for them consuming your content. And then it's just the next transaction higher is I'm going to give you money and time in exchange for this higher level value. So it's this all the principles apply. So I think if you want to grow your social media presence, you really need to learn business because those are the same things that's going to grow your online platforms.
Yeah, somebody says, CryptoChain says, making things to make things can also bring money. You just don't have a business, maybe tutorials for others to help them whilst companies pay you to review that product. But you're in that instance, you're making a conscious decision to say, I will collect money for this exchange of service. I will put a link in the description that says, please give me money if you buy it from this thing. Please give me money if I talk about your product. That is a business transaction, hands down, like no question.
Yeah. It's just a different customer. Like instead of the customer being the viewer, now you are promoting someone else's value so that your viewer becomes someone else's customer. So I don't think advertising is bad, but I do kind of see it as like I'm working really hard to grow someone else's business when it comes to affiliates and it comes to like sponsorships and ads and stuff. So again, I don't think it's wrong or it's not bad. It's not a bad model or anything. It's just I would rather have control of my whole business and promote my stuff and rather than just telling my audience to buy someone else's stuff. Distortions Unlimited. How big of a part a channel's revenue plan involves or should involve memberships, such as Patreon memberships or the YouTube memberships? It could be zero. It doesn't have to include it at all. It's just, is that the best way you have of delivering the value that you want to provide to someone in your target audience? I think too many creators, they like, not just creators, but people in general, they think about growing a business, they jump straight to product. And I think we got to slow way down and evaluate what's the value I'm providing, and things like business model canvas from Business Model Generation, that book, and things will help you do this. But slow down and first figure out what's the value I'm providing. How is it solving a problem in someone's life? And how much is that value worth to them? How big of a problem are we solving? And then you can come to how's the best way to deliver that. And it might be that Patreon and YouTube memberships are a great way. It might be a terrible way. I don't use Patreon anymore, not because there's anything wrong with the platform, just because it wasn't serving you guys as well as I wanted it to. And I could tell that exactly about how you voted with your dollars. And so I was like, if this was a bigger thing, with a higher value to people, there would be more people here. And instead, a lot of people are voting with their dollars over here, and I'm going to spend more time on that. So not because money, but yeah, because like the numbers don't lie. If people think it's valuable, then they will vote with money. Let's see here. I can't say that name. Is it possible to manage 2 channels by yourself? I think no, but I would like to hear from you guys. It is possible, but I would just put all your energy into one channel. It's way easier to grow one than it is to grow 2 simultaneously. So cool. And then Lennon, do you want to wrap up? I didn't quite see what you were typing here.
Yeah, I was cool because Scammer Payback, I want to give a shout out to him. So this is the guy that I had a consult with. He says about 10 months ago, and his channel is a riot. It's all about like people that are trying to scam other people. And so he goes back to the scammers and tries to get them in return. He says here he had 35 subs when we did the consult. He's to 118,000 in 10 months.
Oh, that's awesome.
Super cool. Yeah. And really a fun channel. So.
Well, I don't know much about the channel, but just by glancing at, like, this is what we're talking about. It communicates clearly. It teases a story, Scammer Payback. It's clear. You know exactly like what this is all about. And it creates some tension in the brain. Like, oh, what happens? All things that we need to do predictably to grow channels and grow businesses and things like that. So it's all right there built into the title. It's like a perfect title. And obviously he must be delivering on it because people are subscribing and watching. That's great.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Lennon and I would love to work with you guys. If you'd like, go to videocreators.com/consulting. We'll jump into an hour session with you and really help you move forward with your business and your channel in doing this. Thank you. Welcome to Chickenlandia, Dahlia, for moderating here with us today and putting all the questions in front of us and for really making sure that the live stream works out well. Appreciate you. And we will look forward to hanging out with you guys again next week, same place. Podcast every Tuesday, live stream every Monday to really just help you guys move forward with your business, with your YouTube strategy so you can reach more people, change their lives, including your own. So thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you guys again next week. Bye.